Hi, welcome to Every Box Guitar Tuition. So, got another classic album inspection. October 16th, 1976, Thin Lizzy released their second album of that year, Johnny the Fox. So this is actually my favourite Thin Lizzy album of all time. I think this is superior to Jailbreak. A bit controversial, but I think it works better as an album for me. I think it's better production, and I think it's got better kind of balance. But little bit of history, I think the band wouldn't have recorded the album that year if it wasn't for the fact that the US tour had been cancelled. So they went on tour for Jailbreak. Jailbreak was starting to get traction, as I say, and it eventually went gold, but Phil Lynott got hepatitis. He was very poorly, had to go in hospital, and the tour was cancelled. So they came home and set to work on this. Was recording in August. They went to Musicland Studios in Germany, famous studio in Munich, where a lot of bands, Queen, The Sweet, had recorded albums. But it wasn't working out. They couldn't get a drum sound with the producer John Alcock, who'd done Jailbreak. They couldn't get a drum sound they were satisfied with, so they went to Ramport Studios, just checking in London. Again, another well-known studio. So this album, 10 tracks, 35 minutes and 37 seconds. I mean, I just love the fact, these albums are so short. I did Virgin Killer last week, The Scorpions, and that's under 35 minutes. But bands really need to have less tracks on albums and just make more concise records, to me, because it's just a better listening experience, and you can release more stuff on other albums, but that's just my opinion. But I struggle to write shorter songs sometimes. So basically, they descend, on the studio. The album doesn't do as well as Jailbreak. It makes number 11. It doesn't has as much the hit sort of Don't Believe a Word. But I think because they released 2 albums that year, it kind of gets overlooked. But I do feel it's strong. I think the first thing is the production. I was listening to On a Good System today, and it's got a good punch to it. The drum sound is good. The guitars are really good tuning, and the crafting of the guitars of Gorham Robinson, aside from the harmonies, the use of to do extra little rhythm parts here and there, and everything's blended really lovely. There's a good mix on Phil's vocals, and there's a nice variety to the album. It opens with Johnny, which is a great opening track. I think this shows the strengths of the record. Guitars of Gorham Robinson really tight, the drums, the bass, Phil's vocals are good. The tempo's really good as well. You can see the band's obviously drilled it really hard in the studio, and they've got it just right. Cool wah-wah guitar, obviously, from Brian Robinson, and him and Gorham worked beautifully on this. This is the last album Gorham Robinson will do properly, because he gets kind of chucked out after this and then comes back. But we'll come to that at the end. So great opening track, 4 minutes 18, and then the next track, Rocky. This is a really good time party track. Great lyric by Phil. Kind of more major key sort of vibe. 3 minutes 43. Again, it just carries on the strengths of the previous track. I really like it. This is Brian Downey, Scott Gorham, and Phil Lynott writing this one. And then Robertson and Lynott write Borderline. This is 4:37. This is actually the longest track on the album. It's the only track over 4 minutes. So this is a nice sort of ballad, acoustic guitar. Got a big epic chorus, and works really well. Obviously, don't like it quite as much as the previous 2 tracks, but it's a nice track. It comes in at the right point. Next track needs no introduction. All-time classic, Thin Lizzy track, Don't Believe a Word. We've probably heard it too many times, but we can never tire of it, really, and it's got one of Brian Robinson's all-time great solos. So there's always that debate, about the Thin Lizzy guitar, so I've got a lot of time for Scott Gorham as well. I think Robbo kind of stood out a little more because of that wah-wah, but their vibrato complements each other spot on, so when they're harmonised. I think sometimes they step on each other's toes a little because they've both got a similar sort of pentatonic style, so you kind of listen for that wah-wah more, so it's Brian. But it looks so cool. Brian with his curly hair and tight jeans, Scott with his long straight hair. And they are the all-time guitar duo to me, even more than Smith and Murray and Downing and Tipton. I'm a huge Maiden, well, certainly huge Priest fan, but there's something about that chemistry that's never equalled or bettered, really. So it's only 2 minutes 18, great track. It actually developed this track. It had a slow blues version, and then they reworked it. Brian Robertson reworked the riff into its kind of like the shuffle that we know. And he was annoyed that he didn't get a writing credit because of that. And then later on, the blues version of it found its way onto, maybe it's Gary Moore's Back on the Streets, don't quote me on that. So the last track on side one was Fool's Gold. This is a really good track. It's got a great spoken word intro with some nice kind of underlying harmony guitars about the gold rush sort of thing. Phil and it does really well. And then again, this has kind of got like a nice kind of major key sort of vibe. A really lovely harmony guitar line and a chorus that lifts it as well. Yeah, I actually got this album back on vinyl, 1981, 82, probably 81. I had Adventures of Thin Lizzy, and that got me into sort of Lizzy more. So I got this from a second-hand record shop in Lancaster called Hedgehog Records. You may have heard me mention this before if you watched some of my other videos. So it's pretty tatty, the cover. But yeah, great record. Had fighting at the same time as well. So anyway, sorry, just digressing there. Yeah, so some critics, like Martin Popoff, think this is Lizzy's best album. I know Joe Elliott of Def Leppard's his favourite Lizzy album as well, but other people would prefer the next one, Bad Reputation or Jailbreak. So side two, again, opens with a track people will be familiar with because it's on Live and Dangerous. Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, so kind of like the title track. 3:36, this is Downey Gorham lineup writing this. I think maybe Brian Downey's laid down that groove, and that has been the spin-off point for playing the rest of the song and putting it together. So it's got a really funky groove, this, kind of a bit James Gang vibe, maybe they've been listening to some of funk and soul, but it's got a really cool sort of New York style lyric. I suppose this is one of the tracks on the album, along with Don't Believe a Word, that's well known because of the Live and Dangerous connection. But actually I'm not sure if Don't Believe a Word's on Live and Dangerous, but this one is. So yeah, this is a great track. So pretty much off the bat, we've had 6 really strong tracks. I think the next track's probably the weaker track. This is Old Flame, but I do quite like it. Again, it's more of a poppy track that Phil does well, with some nice harmony guitars. Probably got some acoustic backing in. But like probably the weaker track on the album. And then the next track is one of the album's standout sort of class tracks, and I think this is on Live and Dangerous, Massacre. Again, it's Downey, Gorham lineup. Again, the groove of the drums, I think Brian Downey's probably contributed a lot, and he plays out of his skin on this track. Such a great drummer. He's got great groove, fantastic drum fills, really cool lyric from Phil, and it's probably the most metal song on the album. The verse has these great power chords just going over the top of the guitar riff. I love it. It's one of my favourite Lizzy tracks. Really good. Again, the next track, Sweet Marie. Again, nice track, not one of the stronger ones. I think the album tails off a bit here, but I do like it. It's got sitar on this, or possibly one of those guitars that sounds like a sitar. And I think it's got a string arrangement as well. You can hear some strings in the back. I may have got slightly muddled here. That might be an Old Flame, so don't quote me. But it works very well. Gorham line it right this. Again, it's just under 4 minutes, 3 minutes 58. Kind of got a nice sort of shifts mood for the chorus. And then the last track, I think John Alcock said that they felt they didn't spend enough time getting the songs together, and he felt this was like not worked up properly, boogie woogie dance. But it's kind of like sha-la-la-la-la. I like it. It's kind of funky. It's a kind of fun track that finishes the album. Again, Brian Downey lays down some lovely stuff. And it really brings out his toms. I was saying about Massacre before. There's a good tom sound, snare sound on the album. The rhythm section sounds really good. It's got like kind of nice funky groove. I think that's the thing that comes across the album. It's pretty funky, some of it. It's only 3 minutes 6. Again, it's not the best track on the album, but it kind of finishes the album pretty well. So this album for me, it is a 9 out of 10. I think it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really corking tracks that are really great. And then Borderline, Sweet Marie are really nice tracks. Although I said, before, maybe not like Sweet Marie as much, but I kind of do. And then Old Flame and Boogie Woogie Dance are pretty cool. So it's a consistent record, and it feels to me that it's kind of more of a whole. Sometimes Thin Lizzy albums can feel like they've got the hits on, and then there's these other tracks, and it might be controversial saying this, but they don't always meld together, because the hits kind of override stuff. But because this only has "Don't Believe a Word," and then a track that's kind of familiar from Live and Dangerous, it kind of feels a little more cohesive to me, and I feel the same about Fighting as well. But that's just my opinion. Other people will have their viewpoint. So again, things went wrong for Lizzy after this. Robbo, the night before they were supposed to go on US tour, again, Robbo went out drinking at Speakeasy and broke up a fight between Frankie. I've forgotten his second name. The Scottish singer, Frankie Miller, got his hand cut, and then they had to cancel. That would have cost the band money or insurers, but the album only made number 52 in the US charts. They couldn't push it more and build on the Jailbreak, and that was it for Lizzy. They never got it back in the States. So like UFO, they were one of these bands that you'd think would be bigger in the States, but it just didn't happen for them. Because of their lifestyles, I think Lizzy, obviously Phil Lynott caught hepatitis. Well, we know what kind of lifestyle he led, and that would be more, he's going to be more at risk to get something like that. This, Robbo's a big drinker, he goes out, and he's never really taken the responsibility for it. I think when you see him interviewed, he's just like, I'm breaking up a fight with Frankie, it's not my fault. It's like, well, you shouldn't be at the Speakeasy the night before UST, you should be getting some sleep, but that's how these things happen. I was comparing it to UFO. Obviously, Schenker went walkabout. I mean, if I turned up at a gig in 1977 expecting to see Michael Schenker, he wasn't there, I'd be a bit cheesed. Paul Chapman's good. But it's that thing, these critical periods, on these critical periods, success can ride. Okay, but great record, John and the Fox. Jailbreak's classic, 2 classic albums for Thin Lizzy for me in 1976. We'll probably do Thin Lizzy next year for Bad Reputation and beyond. So see you again. Cheers, thanks very much, and remember to share and subscribe. Thanks.